Hi everyone, my name is Herkeph, and welcome back to my second incredibly stupid hardcore world where I am only allowed to use wooden tools and leather armor. Today, we're starting off by excavating below our starter house that we built last episode. The reason we want to excavate under our house is because we need to get a simple villager setup going, as using unenchanted tools and armor is a bit too masochistic even for me. I then ran off to sleep in my bed that is still placed right next to our house that I spent a rather long time building, though I was quickly woken up by a zombie wearing golden armor who kindly informed me that he had been watching me sleep. I was offended that he didn't try to make a move and lightly spanked him to show him that I'm available. I then got back to the incredibly thrilling task of digging out an area using unenchanted wooden tools, and once the area had been dug out, I started luring a bunch of unemployed degenerates over to my basement with the promise of employment. I then pushed said unemployed degenerates into a hole leading to my basement. However, when I started luring the second civilian towards his new forever home, I noticed that this one seemed to be rather special, as he managed to get stuck on a decorative wall. However, they don't need to be particularly bright to reproduce, so I didn't mind too much. So I lured the second villager towards my basement, where he would spend the rest of his life. I find it funny how the meta in a game made for children mainly revolves around slavery. But I digress. Once the second degenerate had been successfully relocated to my basement, I made my way back into the village in order to steal some beds, as they would be needed for my infinite villager breeder. So I then placed the beds in the villager breeder and planted some potatoes that I had acquired in a highly moral and legal way. I then continued digging out our basement to give us some more space and put in a pickup system that would allow us to transport the villagers out of the breeder. And whilst I had been working on the villager setup, I also decided to bring my bed inside the house that I had spent a pretty long time building. This way, I didn't have to sleep outside like an alcoholic. When I woke up in the comfort of our shack, I continued digging out our basement in preparation of our villager trading setup. And since we now have to wait for the baby makers in our basement to start reproducing, I decided that it would be a smart idea to start preparing our iron farm. So I crafted myself some pickaxes as well as a few shovels and started digging out a 9x9 area right next to my house. The iron farm I'm building is the same that I always go for. It's pretty efficient, cheap, and not too hard to build. I'll link the tutorial I'm following in the description down below. However, even though the farm is quite easy to build, I realized that I had managed to pick out a spot with a water cave, which was rather inconvenient. So I filled the cave with dirt and continued building the farm. However, as I was building the farm, I realized that my house has a few safety issues, as I discovered a creeper right by my bed. And this creeper was rather rude, as he decided to explode right in the middle of my house. And once the iron farm was ready to be stocked up with villagers and a zombie, I started working a tiny bit on our house interior, as there was simply no interior to speak of at this point. And once I had made our house a tiny bit more habitable, I got to the exciting task of trapping a zombie who would scare the shit out of our villagers to produce iron golems. This was, as always, rather easy since zombies have an IQ that is about as low as mine. But eventually, I did manage to get the iron farm up and running, or so I thought, as it stopped working for some reason. I thought that the most likely explanation of my iron farm not working is because there was probably a cave near the iron farm, and an iron golem must have spawned in said cave. instead of my spawning platform, so I decided to go to the Nether to pick up some soul sand to take advantage of an X-ray glitch. However, once I returned to the overworld with my precious soul sand, I quickly came to the realization that the X-ray glitch didn't work anymore, so I started doing the only logical thing and frantically started mining in hopes of finding the spot where the iron golem was chilling. However, this took a very long time and was incredibly inefficient, so I decided to phone up a friend asking if he knew of any other X-ray glitches. Just kidding, I don't have any friends. I googled and found myself yet another X-ray glitch, but this one actually worked, and in no time, I managed to spot the rogue iron golem who had ruined the iron farm. So I dug my way to the cave in which the iron golem had spawned and killed it. I then started putting slabs to prevent more iron golems from spawning. I then spent some time monitoring to make sure that there weren't any other places where iron golems could spawn outside of my spawning platform. However, that didn't seem to be the case, so I decided to move on with my life. So I lured a zombie into my house and brought him down to the basement, where he would spend the rest of his life converting my villagers for my financial gain. I know, I am a very gentle and kind man. However, once the zombie had been put into his designated spot, I noticed that an iron golem had spawned right in our basement, which was definitely an inconvenience, so I removed some of the floor and killed the iron golem. I then placed slabs in order to prevent further spawning of iron golems, and once the iron farm had been fixed for a second time, I decided to head back to the Nether to procure myself some gold for golden apples. And as I was mining gold in the Nether, a friendly neighborhood freak decided to come up to me to say hello. I informed him that I didn't have any change and gave him a light-hearted spanking. However, his friend seemed to get a bit jealous of his friend's spanking and decided to also come up and say hello. This almost cost me my entire hardcore world, as I almost plummeted to my death. I then continued to gather gold until I ran into an angry moaning cloud who challenged me to a ping-pong duel of epic proportions. And once I had collected enough gold to satisfy my immense greed, I made my way back to the overworld. Though once I got back to my house, the game decided to prank me by spawning in 1,000,000 zombies right outside of my house. So I ran in and went to sleep as soon as possible and woke up to the symphony of burning cadavers. I then crafted up the golden apples that I had worked my butt off for and started the process of curing villagers, and then began the exciting adventure of placing and breaking lecterns until I get a trade that I want. And after a very long time of placing and breaking lecterns, I had finally managed to acquire quite a decent amount of good trades. So I immediately started enchanting my armor in hopes of not dying like an absolute noob. I then enchanted my first pickaxe as well as a sword, so we could more easily collect gunpowder going forward. And there we have it, the second episode of my second incredibly stupid hardcore world. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a like and subscribe if you did, and I'll see you in the next one.